Let's dive right in. We're about to explore a place where cutting-edge physics and ancient philosophy seem to be telling the exact same unbelievable story. It's a story that suggests our entire understanding of reality, well, it might be totally wrong.
So, let me start by asking you a question that gets right to the heart of it all. Just look at your hand. Now look at the room you're in. They seem separate, don't they? Of course they do. But what if I told you that separation is just a really, really convincing illusion? Today, we're going to explore why that simple, fundamental assumption might be completely and utterly wrong.
You know, for the longest time, science was built on this idea of a world made up of separate little building blocks. But then, in the early 20th century, a few brilliant people started peering into the incredibly strange world of atoms, and their entire worldview just got turned completely upside down. And that's where our story really begins.
So this part of the story kicks off with a legendary argument between two absolute giants of physics, Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. And at the center of it was a thought experiment so bizarre, so reality-bending, that Einstein himself famously called it spooky action at a distance.
Okay, so here's how it works. It's called the EPR experiment. Picture two tiny particles that are linked, or entangled. Think of them like tiny spinning tops. Their total spin adds up to 0, which means if one is spinning up, the other one has to be spinning down. Simple enough. But here's the crazy part. You send them flying apart. One could be here on Earth, the other on Mars. The very instant, and I mean instant, you measure the first particle and see it spinning up, you know with 100% certainty that the other one, millions of miles away, is now spinning down.
Now, this paradox kicked off a huge debate. On one side, you had Einstein. He was arguing for what's called local reality. He insisted, hey, nothing can travel faster than light, so there's no way one particle can instantly tell the other what to do. But on the other side was Bohr, who made this really radical claim. He said the two particles were never actually separate. They were always a single, indivisible system, linked by some mysterious, unseen connection. So here's the real problem, the thing that drove Einstein crazy. How does that second particle, all the way across the universe, know what just happened to the first one? There is literally no time for a message to travel between them. For Einstein, this was just impossible. It was a paradox that to him proved quantum mechanics had to be missing something.
For decades, this was just a philosophical puzzle. You know, a fascinating argument for physicists with no real way to prove who was right. And it really seemed like it was going to stay that way forever. But science, well, it has a funny way of finding answers. And the answer to this particular question would change absolutely everything.
So what Bohr was proposing, this idea of non-local connections, is a really mind-bending concept. We're not talking about signals or messages, not like a radio wave. We're talking about instantaneous links that seem to operate completely outside our normal rules of space and time.
And then a physicist named John Stuart Bell came along, and he figured out a way to actually test this stuff. He developed a mathematical proof, Bell's theorem, that could tell us which view of reality was correct. For the very first time, this wasn't just philosophy anymore, it was real, testable science.
And the results? Well, they were staggering. Experiment after experiment has been done, and they all proved the same thing. Bohr was right. Einstein, the guy who figured out relativity, was wrong about this one. The universe is fundamentally interconnected. The things that we see as separate, they aren't. They're linked in a way that just completely shatters our everyday intuition. So, okay, if the universe is one indivisible whole, what does that actually look like? What does that even mean? Well, one physicist, David Bohm, took this verified fact and he just ran with it, developing one of the most profound and beautiful visions of reality ever conceived.
Bohm suggested that the reality we see around us, this world of separate things and events, is just the surface level. He called it the explicate order, the stuff that's unfolded for us to see. But underneath all of that, he said, lies a deeper, hidden reality where everything is fundamentally enfolded together. He called this the implicate order. Now, to explain this idea, which can be kind of hard to wrap your head around, Bohm used a brilliant analogy, a hologram. Think about it. If you have a holographic plate and you cut it in half, you don't get half of the image. Each piece, no matter how small, still contains the entire picture, just a bit fuzzier. The whole is literally enfolded in every single part. And Bohm's incredible idea was that our universe is structured in exactly the same way. And this enfolded reality, it isn't static. It's not just sitting there. Bohm called it the hollow movement, a vast, dynamic, flowing process. Everything we see in our world, from galaxies to you and me, is constantly emerging from this underlying movement, kind of like ripples appearing on the surface of a much, much deeper ocean.
And this, right here, is where our journey takes a really surprising turn. Because this radical new vision of the cosmos as this dynamic, interconnected whole, well, it started to sound strangely familiar to people who studied ancient philosophies.
I mean, this is where two completely different worlds of thought just collide. On one side, you have quantum physics, which spent a century proving that the universe is an indivisible whole. And on the other side, you have the Buddhist sage Nagarjuna, who wrote 2,000 years ago that all things exist only through mutual dependence, that they are nothing in themselves. It's an absolutely astonishing echo across millennia. Our most advanced science seems to be rediscovering a very, very ancient truth.
So, we're left with this powerful, powerful idea that separation is an illusion, that at some fundamental level, the universe is a single, unbroken whole. And that leads us to the final question, the one for you to think about. If everything truly is connected, what does that change about how we see the world? And more importantly, our place in it?